Welcome to this episode of Ponderings and Musings of an Ordinary Man. I'm your host, Greg Jacobs. This is a new podcast that I have launched. Really just different thoughts that come to my mind as life goes on, as this world turns. Just different things that I encounter that kind of make you go, in life. So I've got some guests lined up on some future recordings, some interesting things, just kind of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And then kind of in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and be doing some different podcast recordings on some different observations that I have in life. One of those is how I feel that people can be a walking resume or pedigree on their forehead. And what I mean by that, I looked up the definition of pedigree, and it says a record of descent of an animal showing it is purebred, the recorded ancestry, especially upper class ancestry of a person or family. So I'm obviously not talking about animals here. It'd be more the second definition of that when it comes to upper class or a person or family. And we're going to kind of delve into that and break that down a little bit on this recording. But then also to kind of lay out the premise of the definition of resume. A resume is a concise document summarizing your education, work, history, skills, and accomplishments used to present yourself to potential employers for a job, acting as a marketing tool to secure an interview by highlighting your qualifications for a role. It's a personal profile of your professional background detailing what you've achieved and what you can do for a company, often including sections like work experience, education, and skills. So I find that just in my sphere of influence around me, there has been a facade over the years that people build up. There's a lack of authenticity, there's a lack of community, and there's a lack of inquiry as to how people are doing. So I kind of want to break that down a little bit. When I say people are a walking pedigree or a walking resume, that can come in a lot of different circles. I am a Christian. I make no qualms about that. I have seen a lot of Christians, pastors I've had coffee with, just lay people, just different things, where when you get to know them, the first thing that they do is they lay out all of the qualifications that they have, all of their spiritual resume. I have accomplished this. I have accomplished that. It might be education. It might be servitude in different committees that they might serve on or different things. And the same can be applied for those that are non-religious out there in the community in different things. So let's say that you go to, I don't know, a cocktail party or just a retirement party, a birthday party, whatever get together. And you're mingling around the room and people are introducing themselves to you. And it seems like the first thing nowadays is a matter of, what do you do as an occupation in life? And we're compiled in a sum of our parts, it seems, by what we do. It seems to be the glass breaker of the conversation. Well, I work for such and such. I have done this and that in my accomplishments in my life. And then it merges from there to, well, my kids have gone to this Ivy League school or that, if you happen to be in that type of environment. Or they've gone to this military academy, or they're in flight training school, or whatever we can do to try to boost our level in society, we will try to do that. It's very much a Facebook generation. I know that my generation, I'm 51 years old, is into Facebook. Obviously, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever, all these other platforms out there are probably what the younger generation is using way more than Facebook. But it's still a definition. It was one of the main social media platforms to start off, where we say that we are more of a Facebook generation in the fact that nobody puts their crud up on Facebook. Nobody says, for example, I'm having marital issues. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it next month or if I'm going to have to file for divorce. Nobody talks about loss of jobs. Nobody talks about rebellious children. Nobody talks about grief. Nobody talks about whatever you want to, put out there as a topic that is not of the bright side of shiny on social media. So we have very much have become a social media society, whether you want to say a Facebook generation or what. Where I like to trick people sometimes by just putting, like the worst picture that I could find in my account up on Facebook to say, hey, this is, what I look like, at a certain point in time when I was struggling, when I was going through different things. But I'd be remiss if I didn't, say that I also like to put, whether it's a first day of school pictures for your children up there, or the Father's Day pictures for a father that was estranged, but you feel like everybody else is putting Father's Day pictures up, so therefore I must also put a Father's Day picture up, even though you didn't have a relationship with that man and might detest him, or he was, physically or verbally abusive, or whatever might be the case. We're not going to come out and say that. So we have very much turned into a facade generation where we're putting up a falsity to others that we come in contact with. So look, I get that not everybody wants to air their dirty laundry. I get that not everybody wants to be vulnerable and authentic. I have been vulnerable and authentic before, and had my heart stomped on by people that are judgmental, that say, well, I can't believe that Greg Jacobs is doing this, or he's encountering that and this struggle in life, whatever it might be. That is more of a taboo topic or something you're going to keep behind closed doors. And I think what's happened with that is we have families, interpersonal relationships where there are skeletons in our closet, per se. And to that, I say, well, why do you even have a closet? And if you do, why do you even have a door on it? As a Christian man, I say, let the light of God shine in, and let there be no secrets, let there be no hidden skeletons, type thing. That's not to say that you have to share every argument that you have with your spouse, for example, or every disagreement from a rebellious child, or your boss is an absolute idiot, and you're going to go out there and be vulnerable and authentic and post something out there doing that. So there are social norms. There is etiquette. There is an aspect of not airing your dirty laundry, and I totally understand the prior generations with that, but prior generations didn't have social media like we have. So they just didn't share and air their dirty laundry. A lot of them just kept it to themselves. The thing that I have beef with is not that we should air all our dirty laundry, it's that we're airing all of the falsities of our life that doesn't really match up the sum of all the parts. So synergy, by definition, is the individuality. Oh, I'm going to botch this definition, but basically, you're the sum of all the different parts in there. So the product that is produced is not synergistic. It's not something that is actually giving a proper presentation for who you are. Now, let's say, for example, you're at that cocktail party or whatever, and people are bragging about their kids going to, I don't know, Emory University, or they're getting their master's in such and such, and your kid is a street sweeper. Um, is that something that you have to be, embarrassed about or shy about? No, I don't think so at all. But I think in today's society, we have kind of morphed it into that it's like, oh, if I can't trump you on my accolades or my kids' accolades, then therefore I have to make something up, or I will shy away from circles like that. So I feel like there's probably a lack of community due to the experiences that people are going through in life with that. And then there's also the aspect of maybe you do have something to be proud of. Maybe you are full of accolades and full of resume building experiences that you just want to be prideful and throw out there. Then the question would turn into, well, what are your motives and why are you doing it? And is it a house of cards? So for those of you that are not familiar with the house of cards, it's basically a flimsy house that can fall down with, a little wind that blows or a little flick of the finger onto the bottom foundation of the card. So I think that there are a lot of people that do have pedigree and that do have resumes that they wear on their forehead. To that, I would say that behind closed doors, things might not be as rosy as you think they are. I am not wishing ill on anybody. So if everything is just perfect in your life, that's awesome. Help mentor other people and bring them up. But I would say that education, accomplishments in life are not the biggest indicator as far as your status in society. It shouldn't be, at least. I think it has turned into that, unfortunately. I was a Rotarian for years, and one of the mottos of Rotary was service above self. So, if you are truly exercising service above self, what does that look like? And it's a loaded question in many ways, because somebody might say working the fair gate once a year for taking admissions for the county fair might be service above self, and that's great. That's service. I'm not poo pooing that. Others come to me at Christmas time and they'll be like, you know what? We served soup down at the local soup kitchen as a family. A lot of families do that. That's great. I've done that in the past with my family at a place nearby. What I would like to say is it shouldn't be seasonal. It shouldn't be something that you are doing it for a photo op once a year. It shouldn't be something where, oh my gosh, I can't wait to take a picture of this. This is going to be a perfect setting. And I want to constantly go back into social media and see how many likes and how many shares. Because if I didn't get that many likes, then I have to be onward and upward for my next thing that is a facade. So I post on social media. I also am guilty of going back and looking at likes or seeing how many people. But I also tend to share a lot of vulnerable, authentic items in there, mainly my grief journey of losing my son coming up on 5 years tomorrow. And a lot of times I'll get the heart emojis, I'll get the hug emojis with the heart, and that's fine. But I like to be able to share those things not for sympathy, but to be able to help others realize, hey, you're not an island unto yourself. There are others that are struggling with different things, and you don't have to feel like you're alone. So I have also seen people that have been authentic and vulnerable and have said, my husband or my wife is a total turd. Can you believe they did this to me? And they'll berate or bash their spouse on social media. Or, hey, I need you to send thoughts and prayers my way that my child is, being rebellious and this and that. Well, probably not the platform to air those grievances. So I'm not encouraging familiarity and authenticity and vulnerability in every area of our life on social media. What I'm saying is our parents and our grandparents and our great-grandparents' generations didn't have social media. I don't know how they handled it. I have a feeling that they just kind of kept it close and circled the wagons. It wasn't something that you ever aired dirty laundry. A lot of times divorces didn't happen, for example, back then. They would stay together for the sake of the kids and suck it up and not be disgruntled in public, but they might be in private behind closed doors. So I'm also not advocating that. I do believe that we should live our lives constantly growing and constantly improving. But what I am bringing an argument to is, what does that look like? And what does that mean? Constant improvement and growth in our life. If it means furthering your education, that's fine, but it can't be a living pedigree that's walking around on your forehead that I am better than others. If it means that I'm involved in this nonprofit and I'm the head of the fundraising committee and I am doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing whatever, then take a step back and realize that you're saying I a lot. It is not that service above self is a negative thing. It can be when it turns into I and pride takes over. So, what am I advocating for? This isn't a gripe session just about people that tend to constantly talk about themselves and the achievement accolades of their children and this and that. What it is really drilling down on is I would like to see society, and this is a big ask because I know that I don't really have any say or control. I named this podcast Ponderings and Musings of an Ordinary Man on purpose. I'm a nobody. I'm just an ordinary person in Shelbyville, Kentucky. But I have lived 51 years in this life, and I have been a very prideful man. I have worn my pedigree and my accolades and my resume building experiences on my forehead. And I have had to learn from that. I've had to grow from that. I've had to back off, and I've had to have coffee with people and say, tell me a little bit about yourself. What makes you tick? Tell me what your hobbies are. How is your marriage? How are your relationships with your coworkers? Tell me about your children. And, from there, we all want to be proud of our children. We all want to be proud of our marriage. Not everybody is. Not everybody's going through the same walk. There's always differences in each life. But I think that coming at it from that perspective of concern and care versus comparative is the big segue that you have to kind of merge into. You can't just ask about somebody and tell me about your kids, and then automatically in your brain, you're not really listening to them. You're trying to figure out a way to trump them as to, oh, that's cool. Let me tell you about my kids and what they've done. And you are now trumping their conversation. And therefore, it's a kind of a counterfeit sincerity in many ways, where it's not really something that you're really concerned about. You're more concerned about this is a way that I could be nice and ask without trying to be assertive and come out and just say, whatever. So again, I'm not trying to promote not being proud of our lives, our children, our careers, anything like that. I do want to bring out the fact that what are you investing into? So, with that being said, as I take a sip of water, as somebody who was a licensed financial advisor, I guess I still am, constantly dealing with investments with people in the past, not practicing anymore, in compliance. I was always trying to figure out what is the best investment for somebody. And when you take that parameter, because I've also seen this done with people comparing in social settings, you wouldn't believe how many people are willing to say the dollar amount of their 401k. Or they're bragging on the fact that, yeah, I'm only, this far away from an early retirement. How about you? And let's say that they're talking to somebody that doesn't have much set aside in retirement, and they have not, that person on the receiving end has not been as good at investments or savings or retirement, have not had the available resources like the other person talking to them with the amount of money that they could put aside and things like that. So what is happening? On the other end, that person is just like feeling like they want to crawl under a rock. They feel like they're insufficient. There's nothing that I could do that would ever measure up. I'm not going to be able to catch up to a person who's talking to me that's talking about an early retirement at age 56, and being able to set aside money in trust accounts for their children, whatever. And the receiving party is like, wow, I am just a piece of bubble gum on the bottom of my shoe, and compared to this other person. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the comparative game. Is there anything wrong with having a job that provides available resources where you could set money aside into deferred comp, and you can do this and you could do that, and you can take an early retirement? No, there's nothing wrong with that at all. I think that's wisdom. I think that's great. But when you lord it over somebody as a look at me, this is what I've been able to accomplish without being a giver as well, without helping people with educational scholarship needs, without giving to a church, without helping people in the backpack project locally that maybe there's people that don't have food in lower income and they're going home at the Christmas holidays and they don't have those meals in their belly from the school system, whatever it might be. When you are not investing in other people and other things, then it's a real shell game of a facade again. So it's not just the facade of social media, it's the facade of are you investing in the right things? So, just for clarification, we're not talking about monetary investing. We're not talking about actual financial instrument investing. We're talking about investing through concern, through servitude, through one-on-one practice. If somebody has a heart attack and is not able to get out in the summertime and cut their grass, I guarantee you, if you say, "Hey, can I cut your grass?" They're probably going to say, "No, I got it. I'm good." But if you go over there and you actually show through actions that you're willing to do something, and actually put it into practice without having to ask, without having to have them shut you down and politeness and saying no, then that goes a long way. So I do believe as a society, we need to get back to investing in other people. So the challenge I throw out to you and I throw out to me as well is be cautious and careful when you're in a social circle, whether it's around known people that you have a relationship with already, or it's around new people that you don't. Be careful not to go immediately to a pedigree and a resume. Talk to them, find out what their hobbies are, find out what their likes are, find out what their struggles are. I like to ask, what are you struggling with in this season of your life? It's a question that's not asked much. It'll throw people off and they don't know how to respond. And just give it some air and some silence. Let it breathe. It's like a wine when you open it. Don't immediately start pouring. Let it breathe. And you'll be amazed at how a wall will come down if they trust you. It doesn't necessarily happen to a stranger. A stranger's going to make up, "Oh, I'm good. I'm not struggling. Thanks for asking." Why would you ask a question like that? But if it is somebody that you have a relationship with and a rapport, ask them. What are some of the struggles that you're facing at this season of your life? And then I like to ask another question. Whichever one comes first, cart before the horse, I don't think it really matters. I like to say, man, what are some of your triumphs that you're experiencing right now? What are some of your highs that you're going through? And it might be, I was able to get my mom moved into a nursing home. She was not doing well on her own. I feel a real triumph in that because it gives me a little more security of knowing that if she falls, somebody's there, that they can cook for her, they can clean for her, and that's a triumph. And that might not be a season of life you're in right now. It might be something that is totally different that you can't relate with, and that's okay. So every triumph and every struggle does not have to be relatable to the other person on the interpersonal relationship spectrum. But I do think that sympathy is nice. Empathy is a gift. There are certain things we can sympathize with. If you've never had a geriatric parent that you've had to take care of, then you can't empathize with that, right? You can sympathize. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're going through that." And then a couple of years later, you go through it and you're like, "Oh man, I remember when John was telling me that he had struggles with his parent." Well, what's that do? It immediately adds a level of vulnerability, authenticity, where the first person you might go to is, "Hey, John, I remember that you had shared a few years back that you're really struggling with a geriatric parent that was, fell, broke their hip, stroke, whatever it might be. I'm there now. I wasn't there then when we had that conversation. Is there any wisdom that you could share with me now that I'm on this season of my journey?" So I do believe that that is priceless in a generation where all we do is Google things. We go out and we're like, okay, What do I do now? How do I take care of a geriatric parent, for example? Whatever it might be. So don't rely on Google. Rely on experiences of other people that have already walked the path prior to you and are more seasoned in that area of your life. So I have walked different paths that I'm more seasoned in than others that are even older than me, and vice versa. So it's not a comparative game. It's a matter of, well, I'm in a different season of my life now. So share with me, what has worked, what hasn't. I believe that we are a real compilation of all of our different parts, people that have invested in us, different things through life. But I don't think that we should wear it as a resume or a pedigree. So, like, I've chaired like 17 boards in my community in the past. And if I said that I have chaired 17 boards in my community in the past, then it sounds very cocky and prideful. But if I'm saying it in the context of somebody who is struggling with, how do I learn to say no? And when do I know when to push back? Because it's too much on me and it's really taking a toll on my family time, my mental health. I don't know how to exercise self care in that category. I don't know how to push back or say no to volunteerism without letting somebody down. I know that you have been involved in the past in, civic charitable organizations. How do you learn to say no without feeling like you're letting somebody down? Then that's a different conversation than me bragging about my past civic and charitable organization help that I have had in the community. So, in summation, what does it mean to have pedigree or a resume on your forehead as you're walking around? I think that, you can, the pedigree aspect is really a matter of I am superior to you because I have accomplished this, or I come from this type of family, or I have a trust fund, or I have whatever. And I am going to wear it on my shirt sleeve, whether it's by the type of fancy car that I drive, whether it's by the fact that I'm announcing that I have accomplished this, I have this much in my 401k account, I've got my beach house I'm going to, whatever. None of those are wrong in and of themselves. I would absolutely love to have a really nice, Mercedes. I would really love to have a beach house that I could go to. Who wouldn't? But I do think it's a matter of the whole aspect of how you're explaining it, how you're presenting it to people. So that's pedigree. The resume aspect of walking around with a resume is, hey, how are you doing? I'm good. My name's Greg. I have gone to such and such college. I majored in such and such. I have an opportunity to go do this internship across seas at such and such. My kids have all gone to such and such. They are productive, doctors. They are doing better than I ever have. This and this and this and this. To the point where it's like, no, I was just asking how you're doing. I was just trying to carry on a conversation with you. I don't expect people to say, "Oh, I'm doing great. I've got 1.5 million in my 401k. My marriage sucks. My kids don't like me. They actually cuss me out half the time. And by the time I get home, it's usually 11 o'clock at night, and I don't have dinner with my family, and therefore I never see the light of day because I'm in an office." That does not apply to me. It applies to a lot of people out there. So I don't think that obviously you're going to come out in a very casual, how you doing? And, regurgitate something like that. But I do think that there are mannerisms of conversation that we could ask probing questions that are open-ended, that are concern for people. I don't want to get to know everybody intimately. So don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, find out all of your hurts and all of your struggles and all that all the time. Sometimes I just want to shake hands if I'm in the lobby of my church and move on. I don't need to know every single, negative thing you're going through. But I would say keep yourself available. Be willing to share the wisdom that you have attained and learned along the way. If you don't feel like you have attained wisdom, then I would say take a deep, just inventory daily as far as like, what am I learning? What do I want to learn? A lot of people think of New Year's resolutions as a weight loss, program. I'm not big on New Year's resolutions because of the actual percentage that are actually followed through with. But I am big on resets. I don't care what time of year it is. I'm big on resets of saying, okay, maybe I have been a little too focused in this area. Maybe I'm sending off this kind of vibe on my social media posts. Maybe I need to take a fast and a break from social media or from doing this or doing that. And I need to refocus my efforts into something that I can invest into that will make a difference for the future. That's what I'm talking about. So let's all try to not be a social media society. Let's try to not have a facade. And let's try to work together at investing in people's lives and making an actual difference. And what that looks like for one person is going to be totally different for another. That's why I'm not talking about specifics. I'm talking in generalities here because I do feel like it's really a matter of gifts and talents of what people have encountered. I know people that have been divorced, happily remarried, that do marriage counseling. And I've had people that have said, "Can you believe they're doing marriage counseling? They've been divorced before. Why, obviously, why would they do that?" Well, maybe because they learned from their mistakes. Maybe they were able to realize that it was a very selfish, self-centered, egocentric, marriage, first go around, and they really needed to learn from that. I don't know, but all I'm saying is, don't wear your pedigree and your resume on your forehead. Don't let it be something that's the first thing that is coming out of your mouth whenever you're in social circles, is talking about your accomplishments, your kids' accomplishments, all the accolades, and really just kind of trying to get those, pats on your shoulder for all that you've done. Be a giver. Don't always be a receiver. Don't be sucked into this consumer society where it's all about consumerism. Learn to invest in others, and you'll never go wrong. So that's all I've got to say about that topic. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen to Ponderings and Musings of an Ordinary Man. I hope today's episode brought you a bit of inspiration. If you've enjoyed it, please remember to follow, like, or subscribe on your favorite platform so you never miss what's coming next. I can't wait to share future episodes with you. Until next time,